Cruise life is wild when you think about it. It's one of the only vacations where you literally live in the same building as the people serving you. They work, eat, and sleep just a few decks below, making everything feel effortless on your side of the ship. But that perfect experience only exists because they follow a rule book most guests would never survive. Here are the 20 things cruise ship workers can't do at any price. Number 1. They can't use passenger activities like a guest. Here's the part that really stings. They help build the dream they never really get to enjoy. The rock climbing wall, the water slides, the arcade, the spa, the late night comedy shows. All of that is designed for paying passengers, not for the people working 10 to 14 hours a day to keep it running. Most crew never line up for the slide, never book a spa day, and never sit front row at the theater like you do. Some ships offer small crew gyms, movie rooms, or occasional crew-only events, but it's a stripped-down version of the vacation happening a few decks above. Even when they do walk through guest spaces off-duty, they're still in uniform mode, observing, helping, and staying alert. So while you're out there making memories, remember, the crew making your trip feel magical are living in a completely different version of the same ship. Number 2. They can't hook up with guests. This is the rule every crew member hears on day one, and it never stops being serious. Even if it's mutual, even if the guest makes the first move, even if they swear they won't tell anyone, crew-guest relationships are one of the fastest ways to get fired at sea. It's not just about morals, it's about power imbalance, harassment claims, and corporate liability. If a guest complains later, the company will always protect the brand first, not the individual crew member. That's why you'll see staff instantly shut down flirty comments, invitations to come hang out in my cabin, or offers to meet up after hours. They're not being cold. They're protecting their job, their visa, and sometimes their entire income for the year. One bad decision in the middle of a fun night can end a cruise career in a single shift. Number 3. They can't say no to work orders. At sea, the phrase, "that's not my shift," doesn't really exist. If a supervisor calls, messages, or knocks, the expectation is simple. You show up. Maybe a co-worker is sick, a big event just got added, or a cabin disaster needs fixing before sail away. Whatever it is, the schedule bends around the ship's needs, not the crew's plans. That might mean losing what little free time they had, eating in 5 rushed minutes, or staying up way later than they should. And refusing a work order, unless it's a serious reason, can be labeled as insubordination. And that word follows you from one contract to the next. On land, you can clock out and leave. On a cruise ship, off-duty is more of a suggestion than a guarantee. And if they can't even say no to an extra shift, wait until you see what happens when they try to speak up about any of it in public. Number 4. They can't complain publicly. When work gets rough, you can go on social media and vent. They really can't. Many crew contracts include social media clauses that ban them from posting negative comments, photos, or videos that could damage the company's image. Calling out long hours, low pay, bad managers, or safety issues under their real name, especially tagged with the ship or cruise line, can get them fired and quietly blacklisted. Even anonymous posts in private groups can be risky if screenshots start circulating. That's why the stories you do hear usually come from ex-crew who've already decided they're never going back. The people still on board often have the most to say and the least freedom to say it. Number 5. They can't be seen drunk. Yes, crew have bars and places to relax, but off-duty doesn't mean off-brand. Most lines have strict alcohol limits for crew, tracked by cards or sign-ins, and an unwritten rule that if you look drunk in any guest area, you're in trouble. One bad photo of a crew member stumbling in the corridor or slurring at a bar can travel from a guest's phone to a supervisor in minutes. That's not just embarrassing. It can end a contract on the spot. Remember, in an emergency, they might be called to help at any time, no matter what hour it is. So while guests are ordering one more round because it's vacation, crew are constantly doing the math. If something happens right now, will I be fit to respond? Number 6. They can't eat in passenger restaurants. You see unlimited buffet runs and late-night pizza. They see a sign, written or unwritten, that basically says, "You're working this vacation, not taking it." Most crew eat in the crew mess or staff mess, separate cafeterias with their own menu, hours, and rules. The food can range from decent to depressing, but what it's not is the same as what you're getting upstairs. Only certain ranks and officers earn the privilege of dining in guest restaurants, and even then there are dress codes and behavior expectations. For everyone else, sneaking into a passenger buffet for a quick plate is a serious violation that can lead to warnings, fines, or dismissal if they're caught. So while you're stacking dessert plates and trying every station, remember, the person pouring your coffee probably isn't allowed to taste any of it in the same room as you. And if they're not even allowed to sit down and eat beside you, wait until you see how unforgiving the clock is when it comes to their job. Number 7. They can't use passenger elevators. Those big glass elevators gliding through the atrium? For crew, they might as well be display cases. Unless it's an emergency, a medical situation, or they're escorting a guest who needs help, most crew are expected to use service elevators and behind-the-scenes stairwells. That's why you'll sometimes see them appear from random doors in the wall. There's a whole hidden circulation system just for staff. Even when they're exhausted, carrying laundry, trays, or equipment, they're still supposed to stay out of guest lifts so passengers never feel crowded by uniforms. Jumping in a guest elevator to save a few minutes can trigger complaints and lectures about guest perception. On a ship, even the route they take from A to B is part of the job. Number 8. They can't leave the ship without permission. When you're in port, you get off the ship because you feel like it. They get off the ship if the schedule and their supervisor allows it. Shore leave isn't guaranteed. It's a privilege that has to fit around drills, inspections, turnaround days, and last-minute tasks. Some crews spend entire contracts barely seeing the ports they visit because their department is slammed whenever the ship docks. Even when they're cleared to go ashore, they often have a strict back-on-board time that's earlier than the guests, plus sign-in, sign-out logs so the ship always knows who's off. Miss that time or cut it too close, and they're not just late from lunch. They're the person who risked delaying departure, and that can be the last time they ever work for that line. Number 9. They can't date other crew publicly. Shipboard relationships happen all the time. It's kind of inevitable when you live and work in the same floating village. But officially, the line wants things quiet, discreet, and drama-free. Couples can exist, but they're expected to keep affection behind closed doors and far away from guests. Kissing in the corridor, arguing in the crew bar, or getting talked about for relationship drama can all lead to warnings, transfers to different departments or ships, and a reputation that hurts future contracts. Management doesn't want emotional explosions spilling into service, or guests seeing crew wrapped up in each other when they're supposed to be on. So even when two people fall in love at sea, they learn to act like co-workers first, couple second. Number 10. They can't lock their cabin door. On a ship, privacy comes with an asterisk. Crew cabins are company property, and security or supervisors need to be able to get inside quickly for welfare checks, inspections, or emergencies. Depending on the line, doors might stay unlockable from the outside with a master key, or crew are told not to deadbolt when they're inside. If someone covers their peephole, blocks the door, or refuses to open up, that's an instant red flag. It can trigger security calls, reports, and a lot of questions about what they're hiding. So even in the one space that should feel like home, they live with the constant understanding that someone with authority can walk in at almost any time. Quick pause here. If this is opening your eyes to what life below deck is really like, hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel way more than you think, and it tells me you want more videos like this. Number 11. They can't choose their cabin mates. You pick your cabin based on who you want to travel with. They open a contract and get told who they're living with for the next 6 to 9 months. Cabin mates can be from completely different countries, religions, and cultures, with opposite work schedules and totally different ideas of clean. One might be on morning shifts, the other on late-night bar duty, so someone is almost always trying to sleep while the other is getting ready. Snoring, clutter, loud phone calls home, even different smells from food or products all turn a tiny cabin into a pressure cooker. There are ways to request a change, but it usually takes serious conflict or a very patient manager. Most of the time, they just adapt, buy earplugs, and hope their next contract roommate is easier to live with. Number 12. They can't refuse cabin inspections. If you think your hotel room checkout is strict, imagine your bedroom being inspected while you still live in it. Crew cabins are subject to regular, sometimes surprise inspections. Supervisors and security looking for safety issues, cleanliness, and contraband. They check for overloaded power strips, unauthorized appliances, candles, extra alcohol, even how things are stored so nothing becomes a fire or escape hazard. Saying "not now" or refusing to open the door isn't an option. It pretty much reads as "I'm hiding something." Failing inspection can mean warnings, mandatory rechecks, or, in serious cases, termination. For crew, their cabin isn't fully theirs. It's company property that has to be inspection ready, even on their worst day. But if living in a room that can be inspected at any moment already feels intense, it's nothing compared to how unforgiving some of the other rules can get. Number 13. They can't be late. Ever. On a cruise ship, being 5 minutes late isn't, "Sorry, traffic was bad." It's, "Why did you put the operation at risk?" Every drill, briefing, show call, and shift change is stacked with military-level timing. Housekeeping depends on restaurant timing. Restaurant depends on bar. Bar depends on entertainment. And all of it depends on people being exactly where they're supposed to be. That's why crew set multiple alarms, ask cabin mates to knock, and sometimes sleep in uniform between back-to-back shifts. One late start might earn a quiet warning. Repeated lateness can mean losing shore leave, losing privileges, or losing the job entirely. The ship waits for no one, not even the people who keep it running. Number 14. They can't sunbathe on deck. For guests, the open decks are one giant outdoor living room. For crew, they're basically a stage. Stretching out on a lounger in guest areas, taking off the uniform, and closing your eyes like you're on vacation? That's a fast way to get pulled aside. Most cruise lines see crew sunbathing near passengers as unprofessional and confusing for guests who expect everyone they see standing to be working. Some ships have a tiny, hidden crew sundeck or a small patch of open air where they can grab 10 minutes of sunlight between shifts, but it's nothing like the pools and loungers you enjoy. If someone in uniform looks too relaxed in the wrong place, they're not recharging. They're risking a warning. Number 15. They can't just quit mid-cruise. If a contract turns into a nightmare, it's not like a normal job where you hand in a badge and walk out. Cruise workers sign contracts that bind them for months at a time, and leaving early usually means company approval, a replacement lined up, and a proper handover. If someone decides they can't do it anymore and insists on going home mid-season, they may have to pay their own way back, lose any end-of-contract bonuses, and kiss future job offers from that line goodbye. In extreme cases, quitting without permission can blacklist them from other companies too. And if they can't afford that last-minute ticket off the ship, well, they might just have to walk the plank. That's a joke, obviously, but the financial hit is very real. But if walking away from the job is already that hard, the rules around their own health hit even harder. Number 16. They can't get sick without reporting it. On land, you can power through a cold and hope no one notices. At sea, that's a huge problem. Even a mild cough, stomach issue, or fever has to be reported to medical, especially after everything the cruise industry has survived. One person hiding symptoms can turn into an outbreak that ruins a whole sailing. So crew are under strict instructions. If you feel off, report it. That can mean being pulled from duty, quarantined in a cabin, and in some cases, losing out on service charges or tip income for those days. Most of them don't want to stop working. They're on board to earn, but the ship will always choose protecting the brand and the guests over an individual's paycheck. Number 17, they can't keep passengers' tips how they want to. When you slip a bill into a crew member's hand and whisper, "This is just for you," the reality is, it usually isn't. On a lot of ships, every tip is supposed to go through the official system, logged, pooled, and split according to company policy. Some positions are on automatic gratuities, some share with a whole team, and some are under extra scrutiny because of past abuse. Pocketing even a small extra without declaring it can be treated as theft, no matter how clearly you meant it as a gift. That's why some crew hesitate when guests insist on cash-only thank yous. They're doing mental math in real time. Is this moment of generosity worth possibly losing my job if someone sees? Number 18, they can't wander into guest cabins. For crew, the line at your cabin door is basically a wall. Even if a guest invites them in for just a second to look at a broken light, share a drink, or drop something off, stepping over that threshold is one of the biggest red flags on board. It's a nightmare for liability. Accusations, misunderstandings, stolen property claims. The company wants zero chances for any of that. So they're trained to handle issues in the hallway, call maintenance, or bring a supervisor if they absolutely have to go inside. If security finds a crew member hanging out in a guest cabin with the door closed, they don't waste time asking if it was just talking. Most of the time, that contract is over before the next sail away. But if stepping 1 foot over a cabin threshold can cost them their job, what happens when something serious happens and they know too much? Number 19, they can't talk about certain incidents. If something serious happens on a ship, you'll probably only ever hear the polished version. Crew members see and hear far more than the public announcements ever admit. Medical emergencies, security incidents, guests escorted off in the middle of the night, even people going overboard. But anything that touches safety, crime, or ship operations is locked behind strict policies. They're trained to say as little as possible, direct questions to guest services, and never post details online under their real name. Break that rule, and they're not just risking their job, they're risking legal trouble and being blacklisted from the entire industry. So when you hear a rumor at the bar, remember, the people who know the real story are the ones least allowed to tell it. Number 20, they can't slouch. On a cruise ship, your body language is part of the uniform. From the second a crew member steps into a guest area, they're expected to stand tall, shoulders back, eyes up, and look alert. It doesn't matter if they've been on their feet for 10, 12, 14 hours. Slouching against a wall, leaning on a counter, or looking tired can all be read as lazy or unprofessional. So while guests are shuffling around in flip-flops and sinking into deck chairs, the crew are holding their posture like they're on a permanent job interview. Even those tiny moments where you see them standing still by an elevator or in a hallway, that's still work. They have to look ready, present, and calm, even when their back is screaming and their legs are gone. So next time you step onto a ship, remember there are 2 cruises happening at once. The vacation you see and the rule book everyone below deck is living by. Now, if this gave you a different perspective on those smiles in the hallway, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone planning their first cruise. And if you've ever worked at sea, or you're thinking about it, drop your stories and questions in the comments down below, and the next video is waiting for you on your screen. Your voyage is just beginning.